You are now checking out
the Win Podcast,
where the everyday people
are the celebrities.
So let's get to know them.
I'm Kelly Finnigan from Los Angeles, California, and I'm a record producer. I'm a singer. I am a music lover, a brother, a son, and I wear a lot of hats with music. Like I said, singer, keyboard player, drums, arranger, engineer, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I kind of do it all.
When did the music start for you? At like I'm assuming since you do so much, wear so many hats. Like, was it at a young age, or was it about the music you was hearing that you was like, you know what, I love hearing it, but now I want to dive into it even more from playing it, singing it, and so on?
Well, yeah, I took to music at a young age, like in terms of not wanting to do it professionally or play music, but just loving music and wanting to buy records and wanting to buy tapes. Um, um, it's well documented, but I always talk about it. Is like my father is a professional musician, so I grew up in an environment where I was going to concerts. I was around musicians. You know, there was a baby grand piano in our living room, so my father would be playing and singing on the piano all the time. It was kind of like just around me from the beginning of my life. But it wasn't really till I was a teenager that I really started to think about, wow, like this is something I might want to pursue as a career. This is not, that's not true. It wasn't, I might, it was like, I'm doing this.
Nice.
It was a very definitive, like, this is what I'm doing now. I know what, because I also played a lot of sports, but I think I was mature enough and honest enough with myself to say, hey, you're good at this, but you ain't this good, bro. Like, you're not going to go pro, like, you know what I mean? As much as I wanted to when I was younger. So by the time I was like, you know, entering high school, I was already like DJing parties. I got it. The thing that bit me first was DJ culture. It wasn't playing an instrument or singing. It was like I went to a friend's house party and the DJ was just like, he had the room in the palm of his hand. Like literally, like every record he dropped was like, and that was my first experience seeing like a party that felt like a music video. You know what I mean? Like the room was packed.
Yeah.
People were getting down, they're sweaty, just like in the moment. And I was just like, it really, even though I'd been to a lot of concerts because of my dad, it was just like an energy in the room. And I kept going over to the DJ and asking him, like, what are you playing now? What record is this? Like asking him questions.
Yo,
and then
that
at the
sounds
end,
like
I was
me.
just, yeah. So at the end, I was basically like, man, this, like, I really love what you did tonight. Like, I want to get in, you know, I want to get into this, what you're doing. I love it. So he gave me his number and, right around, I mean, I can't say I know what happened with him, but when I got in touch with him, he was super cool, super supportive. And he actually passed me off to this cat who kind of taught him, who was an older dude. So I got a hold of that gentleman and I kind of shadowed him on a few gigs to kind of see like what it looks like to be a DJ, which when you look back as an adult, you're like, man, this is so cool. Cause I was like 13, 14 years old. You're talking about like a young teenager. And I'm lucky these older folks were so, you know, approachable and just really supportive about like, okay, you want to do this? Here's how you do it. Here's how you do it professionally. Here's some of the records you should buy. Like, here's some things you're going to have to understand as a part of it. Like request, like when you get hired for a party back then, it was like, you had to go buy all those singles and records.
Yes.
When I was a DJ, it was vinyl, you know, there wasn't no I mean, CD DJs came like a couple years into me DJing, but I just grew up loving records. So
digging in the
so
crates.
yeah, that was really the beginning, was like DJ culture. And then through DJ culture, you know, I was heavily into hip hop music. And during that time, a lot of the hip hop culture was like the DJ was the producer, like a DJ Premier would be the best example. Or like reading about Dr. Dre. He started off as a DJ. So I felt this
Pete
connection.
Rock, all those people.
Exactly, Pete
Yeah.
Rock. We could go on and on. Marley Marr, like
Yeah.
Large Professor, like all these guys are rooted in DJing. So because I was in that, and I was just like, I've always said, like, I've had a curious mind with music, because at that point, 13, 14, 15, I really started being curious about, man, how do they do this? How do they get this sound? Like, just more of the production value and the recording value. I started to get curious through buying records and listening to them, and understanding why this was a good up-tempo song to get the party going, or playing those slow songs, because I was playing parties for younger people. People want to slow dance, like teenagers. They want to they want to get close to each other.
Yeah, grab some booty.
Exactly. So that really like made me dive into the like funk and soul, like the deep end of the pool, not just like on the surface of like all the acts we know, like the Meters, James Brown, P Funk, like all the natural kind of.
But it was like
stuff.
it seems like DJing, especially when I was like into like learning about a lot of older music and different bands. It was almost like a school. Like you're learning so much by hearing it, and also you have people around you, which is a blessing too, so they can even pinpoint it. But it's like training your ear, training your mind, and you're seeing the music differently, which is funny because you wear many hats, but it seems like you had it's time with each one to like nourish in it and build that skill.
Yeah,
definitely. I would have to totally agree with that. And with that culture of shopping for records and getting into buying records, not only for myself but for parties, you really get into like, okay, so who produced this? Who are the musicians? What label is it on? Because these are cues that it's like, well, I already own this CTI record produced by Bob James. It's got all these dudes on it, Idris Muhammad and Gary King and Ralph, all these famous jazz. You're like, okay, I'm gonna buy this because I know these other CTI records I have with Bob James are fire. So boom, like that's a. So as you start to navigate, it just teaches you a lot about, like I said, like the people who you don't talk about, like the producers, the arrangers, the musicians, the people who really are making a big difference in the room about how the music comes out. So that's kind of like not to backpedal, but I went to boarding school. Growing up in LA, I got to my freshman year at a high school. It was like a private school, and I like ditched all the time. I was just like, bye, Mom. Get dropped off. Excuse me, get dropped off, and then like duck around the corner, go roll something up. Not very responsible, but whatever. It is what it is. But I was smart enough after I basically failed out of that school because, like I said, I never went to class. So it was like, well, you're getting Fs because you're never here. So I went to public school for a little bit, and that really woke me up of like, yeah, so if I don't put myself in a situation that's kind of nurturing to my kind of the way I learn, I'm probably gonna like, this is probably gonna like screw me up.
Yep.
Because honestly, like growing up and kind of going to a lot of private schools and then going to an LA public school was like definitely a wake up call. Like, wow, these people, like these teachers don't care. Like, I hate to say that because I have so much respect for teachers, but we all know it's like, it's a very difficult job. They're underpaid, they're underappreciated. But I could tell it's like, man, they don't care if I come to class or if I don't, if I sleep during class, like they're here because they need that paycheck.
Yep.
So,
and also the environment that they in too, that it's like it's not making it better, because I could relate, growing up in East New York in a bad neighborhood and going to public school, you can see the ones that care and the ones that's like just checking in. It's like it's tough, it is what it is.
They're not built for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so knowing that, I kind of sat down with my parents and I was just like, yo, I think I should go to, basically they were like, what's the deal? I was like, I hate school. And they were like, well, sorry, you have to go to high school. Like, there's no, unless you want to go get a job, bro. Yeah, so it was basically like, you're going to high school. Sorry, we don't care about your music dreams. Not to say they were so supportive, but they were just being parents. Like,
right,
yo,
exactly.
You're being dumb. Yeah. Like, you got to go to high school. So then I was like, well, what if I went away? and they were like, "Would you want to do that?" And I looked into it. We looked into it, me and my parents, and we talked to some folks, and like I ended up going to Vermont for high school. So I went to a boarding school all the way. That's far. That's a 5.5 hour plane ride from LA. So, but it removed me from everything, and it kind of just allowed me to go somewhere where like my focus was really like school, you know what I mean? And sports and of course girls and other things like that. But it was really like, hey, here's your purpose. You're going here because you need to go to high school. So that kind of like stopped all the growth, unfortunately. I couldn't bring like turntables to the boarding school. They were like, nah, nix that. They were very supportive, they were very supportive in terms of like, yo, we have these musical practice rooms, but like we've never had a DJ and that could be disrupt. Like it was kind of, which was disappointing at the time, but it was nice for me to just go do the school thing and like put the music on hold. So unfortunately, like during high school, I was still buying tons of CDs and I was still discovering new music and growing as a listener. But it kind of got put on hold. So, but when I got home, it re-energized me. And I was like, went at it with full force. And it all just kind of dominoed. It's like I got home. I knew I wanted to get into production and engineering. So I went to a program in the Valley in North Hollywood. And got a degree in audio engineering. And then I got interested in playing keyboards. I started teaching myself that. And I just started spending a lot, like I tell people, I've spent so much time experimenting and trying things and growing. And just, I've been lucky to have multiple spots, like spaces where I can kind of like lock myself in the room and really like be creative and really, like I said, try things, because in the end, all that experimenting and all that time, it's a growth period. Like that was my music school. That was my music college, was just, like I said, locking myself in these rooms and just like trying things for the fact of like what works and what doesn't. And like I said, it was just a trickle effect. The keyboards.
When did you find your voice that you sang?
That was last.
Oh, that was the last piece.
Because my father, and I'm not overshooting it, like my father is an exceptional singer. Like, I've heard him be praised by the best of the best, like literally like people like Etta James and Jerry Wexler, who produced Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin. Wow. Like really respectable people being like, yo, your dad's a beast when it comes to singing. So I think in the back of my mind, I was just always like, no, I don't want to do that. That he's really good at that. You know what I mean? Like,
because you're gonna be like compared to him in a way.
Exactly, exactly. And that's kind of how you think when you're younger. It's like, oh, well, I'm always gonna. And I think that was also my path. Why I was very much like, I want to be a producer. I want to be a producer, because my dad, he was a musician, a keyboard player, and a singer. But he wasn't a producer. He wasn't a studio guy. He was really like, he did a lot of sessions, but he was on the road a lot, between Crosby, Stills and Nash and Etta James and Taj Mahal, Joe Cocker, Bonnie Raitt. Like he's toured with the best of the best. So yeah, I mean, the voice came last, man. It just, the production, the keyboard playing, like all that stuff. And then one day I was working on a project for a Japanese label, and they wanted me to do a cover of Bobby Caldwell's "What You Won't Do for Love." And I was like, yeah, I don't really know any. I had just moved up to the Bay from LA to Oakland. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know any like male singers. Like I know some female singers, but they were like, nah, we don't want a female singer. So I was like, how about I just do something slick and like do a cool instrumental? Like it'd be cool to hear this song without the vocal. They're like, blah, blah, try some vocals. It was like a back and forth. So then it got to this one part, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try and put some vocals here. And I just basically was like, all right, here we go. Like maiden voyage. turn the mic on. Let's try this. And I think the response from my friend, this guy I was working with at the time, Jared, he was like, "Yeah, that was pretty good, bro." Like, I think we didn't know.
Did
We
you
both
sing
didn't know what
before
to
that?
expect.
I was
I mean, I sang to
in the
myself.
shower to yourself.
Like
You
in
know
the
what I'm saying?
shower,
Like,
in the
Yeah,
bath,
of course.
exploring on
but
your
did
own.
you ever feel like, okay, I got something here. I might explore later on.
I think I knew I had a little something. And my dad was actually encouraging because he would hear me hum things or, you know, we would talk
could
about
tell.
music and I might, yeah. And he was just like, you got a good ear. Like you got a good like timbre. Like you should, he was encouraging, but I was like, nah, that's your thing, blah, blah, blah. So then once I did that and I heard myself back and I didn't completely hate it, I was like, okay, that's cool.
Beautiful voice.
Well, I mean, thank you so much. But it's really grown, and that's what I would say that immediately to anybody who's scared of singing is like, first of all, singing in front of people is like getting naked in front of someone the first time.
Yep.
It's very vulnerable.
It's
very exposing. Your biggest fear is that they're going to judge you in a negative light, and that can and I beg of people to not do that because that you could destroy someone. You know what I mean? You don't know what that person could have been if you would have been supportive. So you know, I didn't hate it. And then from there, I started doing little more things on my production, little background things. And then I actually did a show in front of a crowd. And I was playing at a restaurant that's in Oakland. For those who know Oakland, it's like a pretty famous barbecue place. It's called Everett and Jones. It's owned by a family. And I think the big thing was like the crowd was like 98% black. So I was like, all right, I'm singing black music. Like that's my thing. Like I love black music and all my favorite
And they're
singers.
gonna let you know if you're good or not, like
Exactly.
within the first 5 seconds.
So I told my
get this
exactly, I
motherfucker off
told
the
my-
stage.
Exactly. I told my friends, hey, I've watched enough Apollo. So I was like, yo, we're gonna know tonight, like we're gonna do these few songs, blah, blah, blah. I was like, we'll see what happens. And they loved it, you know, and that right there was like, that was a really encouraging thing. Cause I was like, if I can not be booed off, you know, by a crowd like this, I think, you know, I think I'm in a good place to keep doing this and really grow, because if you can just start singing and being exceptional, you got a gift from somewhere special.
Honestly,
but
Kelly,
the fact
like,
is,
I honestly, not to toot your horn, but you do have a gift, man. I listen to a lot of. I'm an old soul. I feel like I've been here for some different lifetimes, and all the music I listen to that I connect to is from the past. So, like, even now when I'm searching for like, what are artists doing now? You know, that's bringing out old stuff back. You know, people like you, Duran Jones. I love Lee Fields, Charles Bradley. So then I just so happen to fall into your album, just me always searching. But when I heard your voice, you know, I always feel like you can always have a nice tone, but singing with feeling, that's something you can't really teach. That has to be like that's a gift that, you know, that comes with. And when I heard you, I felt it, man. There was you have a gift. And then when I saw you play at this hotel in New York City, because I was like, okay, let me see what this guy could do live. I would love to see him live. Because that album, to me, I got it right here. I want to show you. Tales People Tell.
Yeah.
To me,
man.
That's a classic album. That is a classic soul album. I felt.
Thank you.
After you explain everything you've been done in life and like what you was going through and playing in other bands, now I can understand why this record to me feels so tight in a way that to me feels like a classic soul album. It was years of your life learning, putting in work. So for me, I just feel like, you know, when you sang, you know, you are connected to something. You do feel the love and the passion you have. I just want to know quickly, because I was going on and on. I'm just giving you roses.
No, it's all
while
good,
you're here.
man. I really no, and I'll say about that, like that's probably one of my strengths is like I watched my dad like when he sang, he like, you know, to be quite honest, it's like my dad is like he's an old school cat. Like he's got a big heart and he'll love you to death, but like he's not a vulnerable some open book. Like he grew up in a very
Okay.
like old school Irish Catholic
Strict.
Midwest. So it's like he's not some like, but when I would see him sing, it was like there was a vulnerability there
Yeah.
that you wouldn't see as a person. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think seeing that was very, because you see that and then you see people respond and you go, there's something there where you're meeting. It's like you open up your soul and the crowd wants to open up their soul.
Yeah.
So I mean, I appreciate that, because that's all you can do as a performer, is like a singer, a musician, is like be honest, be true, and show your heart when you do it, because people recognize that. Like, we're all human. Like, you can see when someone's really just being real with you.
What does music and singing and just everything give to you? What does that bring you?
I mean, I can't even imagine. It's bad. Like, music, unfortunately, like, I'm a workaholic. Like, it, I really just like do this so much. It's all I want to think about. And unfortunately, it's not always like good for relationships. It's not always good for me in terms of taking care of myself. Like, sometimes I get real tunnel vision, and it's everything. I mean, music, I think it's more than once saved my life. It's definitely shaped my life. It's changed. You know what I mean? It's who I am. It's not like some people where they're like, well, if you took away music, I'd have my family and my kids, and I
Yeah.
also like this, and I love the Yankees, and I love this,
Yeah,
and it's just
yeah.
like I don't really have that. I have my family, I love them, and I have music, and it's like
That's
it's
your
kind of
child.
like I'm just one of those dudes. Yeah, it's like I'm I'm one of those dudes. It's like It's hard for me to man, it's hard for me to like be in the moment sometimes of life when I'm sharing experiences with other people, because my I've been like training myself to be like so driven that it's a blessing and a curse,
Do
honestly.
you do you do you
Just to
give
be honest.
yourself do you give yourself credit for like a lot of things that you accomplish, or you're one of those people that like on to the next, and very hard on yourself? Because
No, I do try
I'm a
and stop.
creative person as well, so I know
Yeah,
I
both
can like
are.
understand like sometimes when you breathe too hard on yourself, and sometimes you're
Yeah.
like, yo, you gotta pat yourself in the back and just chill. And then
No, I definitely try and take it in stride in terms of like when something exciting happens, to stop and relish that moment, because it's so easy to look at the good things and those, like you said, like those steps. It's easy to look at
yeah,
those and be like, yeah, that's cool, okay, on to the next. But it's like, no, 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 this is something you've dreamed of,
yeah,
and now that you've accomplished it, like, make sure you understand what, not only what it took to get there, but like cherish the moment, and congratulate yourself, celebrate, feel good about it. Not in the sense of like, yo, we did it, we're good, like,
yeah, yeah,
but
No,
just in the
but
sense of, like you said, like, make sure you
look at
relish it
all.
and make sure you process it. You let it sink in, and you reflect on what it took for you to get that. Because though, for me, those things are just motivating, and it makes me want to just keep going, work
yeah.
hard, not work harder, but just keep at
Keep
it.
doing
Mhm.
it. Yeah.
What is your
Yeah.
work process like in the studio when you're about to either make a song or start working on an album? Like, because I know I read some of your stuff sometimes, and even what you shared here, you're very focused, tunnel vision. You spend days and just trying to perfect something, mix something. So, what is that
Yes.
process for you when you're about to like almost like go in the boxing room? It's like, okay, I want to create something, or I got something here, I want to make it better.
I mean, my process is, in terms of like writing music, I don't really have one process. It all
Okay.
comes different. Sometimes it's like, if I think of a cool phrase, like in my notes on my phone, I have like lots of just phrases, because you'll hear somebody
Yeah.
say something, or you'll think of something, you'll hear it on TV, you'll read it, and it's like, oh, that's a cool phrase. Like, let me
Yeah.
write that down. But then it's like sometimes you get a melody. Sometimes I'll sit down at the piano, start playing, like, oh, that's a nice little progression. So my process in terms of writing is like, I don't really have like one process. Some people really have this is how I do it. I don't really have that. It just kind of happens, and I let it happen. And I've rarely kind of sat down. I mean, I've done it more often, But in the beginning, it was never like, I'm going to write a song today.
Yeah.
Like,
It
sit
just
down
come.
and like pull the paper out. Like, yeah, I was never, I
Yeah.
mean, now that I'm like a lot better at songwriting, I can do that. I can like flex that muscle, but I don't really like to do it. I like that it happens organic. I like that it happens natural. But I mean, my process is like, I mean, yeah, usually for like something like my record, it would be like I bring in Joe and Max Ramey, are two gentlemen who are all over my record. I work with a lot. Max plays bass, Joe plays guitar. I'll bring them in. I might be playing drums, or maybe I'll bring in Austin, who I play with a lot, who's a drummer, or another great drummer named Dan. So I bring them in. Um, and like we
improvise, just
either I
play.
have so like either I have an idea
Yeah.
or we'll talk about something that we like. So like sometimes when we get together and we write, we'll just sit down and like listen to music for like 30 minutes to an hour to just get inspired
Yeah.
and really just like vibe out. Oh man, that record's cool. Like share music with each other, kind of just get the juices flowing. And then, you kind of just decide like, what do we want to write? What's the tempo? What's the vibe? What's the feel? So it'll be like, so like with Catch Me I'm Falling, it was very much like that was the last song that was written for the record. And it was, I was talking to Terry at Coal Mine, and it was basically like, yo, we need something like real sweet. Like we just need, that's the one thing the record's missing, is like something really sweet. So when Joe and Mac showed up, I was like, all right, I know I want it to be like slow, sweet, and I want it to be stripped down. So, I was like, I'll play acoustic guitar instead of electric. And so and then we cut it as a 3-piece. I'm just playing kick drum and maraca. Max was playing bass. Joe was playing acoustic guitar. We cut it. And then it's funny, like those dudes talk about it a lot. It's like those dudes leave. So it's like they don't hear the song till it's done. Like when they left, it was like acoustic guitar, bass, and like a kick drum with a maraca. So they're like, what's this dude gonna do with this? And then, months later, like, all right, here's they're like, damn, okay. So yeah, I mean, that's the process. Like then I sat with it. I wrote the lyrics. I did, all the production and everything in terms of adding, my friend put some trumpet on the end, and I added some organ and mixed it. So yeah, man, it's just
do you something like when you're creating like for instance you said like the trumpet and stuff like, is that something that you hear while you're doing it, or, like automatically you hear the sound? Okay.
I mean, sometimes it's like you have the vision clear at the beginning, and sometimes you just have to like peel back the layers, and the vision becomes clear as you get through the process. It wasn't like we wrote the song that day and I was like, yo, I'm gonna put trumpet at the end. It was like as I started to put it together and really like put the mood of the music together in the song, I was like, oh, a nice little muted trumpet at the end would really like float it off and give the listener a new instrument that they haven't heard the whole song. I love that when you get to the end of a song and like something new is introduced, and you only get like 30 seconds of it, but it's like, wow, that's beautiful. So I mean, yeah, like I said, like, yeah, I'm definitely that dude who like hears things, and I'm chasing sounds in my head and constantly, trying to, like I said, make the vision clear so I can just get it right.
Yeah. What was the motivation behind your? This was your debut album by yourself, like you, right? So what was the motivation for this album? Like, was it something that you like one day you're like, hey, I want to create an album, or it was like, I got a whole bunch of songs, let me try to see what I got here? And then what was the reaction that you had when you finally like completed it? Like, it was like, what was that for you in that moment?
Well, the thing is, for those that don't know, I'm a member of a band called Monophonics, and we've done some really amazing things. Like as a band and as a member of that band, we've done some, we've had some really cool success and done a lot of traveling and touring all over the world, and been able to really do some really just amazing stuff. But that. We were touring a lot between 2012 to 2016. We did hundreds of shows, and everybody, not everybody, but some of the guys in the band were kind of like, not only were they kind of burned out, but I think they were starting to realize, maybe this isn't exactly what I want my life to be like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it's that classic tale of like, be careful what you wish for. Like
Yeah.
you want to be this, you want this, but like you actually start living it and go, oh, I don't actually like, some of the guys were like, I don't like touring. I like, I want to live a normal life. I want to have a job. I want to get married, have kids.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you can't do that and be a touring musician, but it's hard. I mean, anybody with a family who makes a living off touring will tell you it's a hard thing to balance.
Yeah.
So we took some downtime, and being that I just love to just stay creative, and that's just how I am, I just started kind of writing stuff, not with an idea of like, all right, y'all want to, y'all want to
Next
take
year,
a break. Like,
debut.
yeah, I'm doing a record. Like, it was definitely just like,
fuck y'all.
okay,
Y'all want to break up?
Exactly.
I got my own shit.
Exactly. It was really like, okay, I get it. Like, people want to like, do other things, and they want to spend time at home, and I'm cool with that. So, because I love being in the studio. So I just started writing, man, and I wrote I Don't Want to Wait. And then I think after that, I wrote like I'll Never Love Again. And then I just kind of like wrote a few songs, and then I sent them to Terry, who I've known for like 10 years now. So I've known Terry since like basically the beginning of Coal Mine, when he was a science teacher who just had this little label. He was, you know what I mean? Like, not a full-time music dude, just like a guy who just like, I like records. He grew up, his dad was a record collector and owned like, I think at some point he owned like 100,000 45s, something crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, like crazy collector. So I started kind of throwing him the songs, and he was like, what are these songs for, bro? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of like busting them out. And he's like, man, these are good. You should just keep going. So I was like, okay. So then once I got a few, it was very much like, oh, I guess I'm making a record. Like, I guess I got 5 good songs. Like, if I write another 5, so like the first half was very loose and like no goal, no real like no goal at the end.
I think that's
kind of writing.
I think those are the best moments because there's no pressure of anything. You're just having fun,
exactly,
and letting loose. And then before you know, you're like, "Oh shit, I got something great."
And look how beautiful it turned out to be.
I mean, but that helped. I think going into it with that attitude, but then halfway through it, I did become very focused and very minded of like, okay, I'm making a record now, like. So looking at those 5 songs, I'm very old school. Like I love albums. Like I love
Me too.
the art form of making a record where you drop the needle and it plays.
Yeah.
Like that. That's a lost
Even the
art
sound
form for me.
Yo, and that's how I felt with this album. I don't have to skip a song. Like I just put it on and it just goes. It tells a story. And like those are rare times where, every album is gonna have like a song or two that you're like,
of course,
favorite.
Of course.
But then like there's also great albums or albums that you love that tells a whole story that you don't want to skip it, like from the beginning to the end. It takes you on this nice ride. It's a story.
Mm-hmm.
So like once I got that focus and I kept making these songs, like you said, how did you know? It was like, I think I knew because, like I said, I've known Terry a long time, and I would like finish another song and send it to Terry. Can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I cursed like 3 times already.
Sure. I thought you did, but I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to be disrespectful. So like I kept sending songs, and Terry would just be like, man, this is going to fuck people up, bro. This is going to fuck. So like as he kept saying that, and I just saw how hype he was, because it's his label, and he hears music all day long, to catch people up. Now Coal Mine is like one of the leading soul labels, and like Terry and his brother run the label full time. They also own a beautiful record shop in Ohio. So it's like he sees both sides of the game. He puts out records, but he's also selling other people's records to the public. So like he has a great knowledge that a lot of people don't have. So just seeing how hype he was, like I was digging what I was doing, but seeing how excited he was really like, okay, we might have something special here.
Nice.
Because I'm always going to be my worst critic. Like I love my music and I'm proud of it, but just like any artist, it's like, okay, I did this now. You know what I mean? Keep it moving. This is beautiful, but this is also just, this is a record is a stamp in time.
Yeah.
That record is like, that was how I felt in my life in 2016 through 18. You know, that's basically the time of year it was created, off and on between touring with Monophonics and working on other records. So I mean, yeah, I'm extremely proud of the record. As the days pass and I get farther away from when it came out, I feel more pride towards it. I feel really proud of it, and it is a really a good record, and I'm proud.
I was gonna ask you how's your parents, your dad, like how does he feel about you?
Well, you know what's amazing, man, is like the write up on the back of the record is my dad. He wrote that.
Nice.
The little like synopsis on the back.
Yeah.
Like he's an amazing writer. So I mean, my parents have been incredibly supportive from day one. I think it was different from my mom and dad because my mom watched my dad. My parents have been married 50 years.
Oh.
So my mom watched my dad chase his dream and achieve his dream. Like she was there. They met in college.
Oh, wow.
So it was like so I think she saw him in me and was like, okay, all I can do is be supportive.
Nice.
My dad was as supportive, but I think it took him a little longer because he just knows how tough this business is.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of was like, all right, let's see how serious he is, because it's easy when you're a teenager to be like, I want to do this. But then as you become a young adult, you got to really like, prove yourself in terms of like, can it pay the bills? Can you make it happen? Can you stay afloat? So
what did
I mean, they love the record. They're extremely proud of it.
I was gonna say what did songwriting do for you to express everything you have felt inside and now putting it out on paper? Because with the singing, it's very vulnerable. But I think this being in a room by yourself or maybe with other people, and now you're like dishing all this stuff where you're probably not open with a lot of people, talking about how you felt. But this is different where you're like, now it's just you, this pen and this pad. What did that do for you to release whatever you were feeling?
That's a great question. I mean, I never really I never looked at myself as like a lyricist or a songwriter. Even though, like, looking back, I was so drawn to people who are, considered great songwriters. It's like everybody talks about, certain artists as a performer or a singer. And usually it takes a certain kind of singer to be like, oh, he's a singer songwriter, like a Neil Young. It's like Neil Young, the first thing people talk about is like, oh, he's an amazing songwriter.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing artist. It's like he's got a unique voice. He doesn't sing like Aretha Franklin or Frank Sinatra. Mm-hmm. He has a very unique sound, but the way he delivers his words are very true and powerful and honest. So it's like, I think, the songwriting thing just kind of fell into my lap because when I joined Monophonics, nobody wrote songs. So they were basically like, oh, well, you're the singer, so you got some lyrics? So I kind of was just like, man. So that kind of made me like I said, I've always been a student of things. So that made me be like, oh man, I'm lucky though. I've been around, I grew up around Crosby, Stills and Nash. Like literally, I grew up around those guys. So like when you look back, you're like, man, those are some songwriting dudes. So I think I was around a lot of stuff that really I was soaking it up and maybe I didn't realize it, like I was actually paying attention. Exactly. So it's like, I'm lucky, man. I really can't say of course I wouldn't be like, yo, every song I've written is great, but it's like, I don't think I've written a shitty song.
Right.
It's like, I definitely have good songs, better songs, great songs. Like these are great, but it's like, I can't, like, I've talked to people and they're like, well, you got to write a lot of bad songs. It's like, I can't say I'm lucky. I haven't done that yet.
That's
Not
honest.
to toot my own horn, but it's just one of those things where, like, I can even look back. The first song I wrote lyrics on was a song by Monophonics called Like Yesterday. And I listened to it the other day. And there's definitely moments of like, oh yeah, you're kind of just doing the James Brown thing where like you're kind of just being more emotive and doing something very simple and not sophisticated. But it's like Lee Fields and Charles. It's like you can give them very simple words. But if you really express something we all hear every day, like I love you, but if you express it with a true, honest emotion, you could hear them sing those words all day and you wouldn't get tired because it feels real. So I figured that out like fast, which was like, I don't have to be Joni Mitchell. I don't have to be Tom Waits. Like I can sing about love and sing about other things.
How you say it.
Exactly. It's the messenger. It's not always the message, man. And people get caught up in like, I think that's the thing with songwriting is like people want to be too clever. They want to like reinvent or like, oh, I want to take song. It's like, no, like you got to realize it's all been done. Every kind of chord progression, every kind of like emotive idea as a human being has probably been sang or said or spoken of. So you got to get past the whole like sitting on in front of the paper like, okay, I gotta change the world with these. It's like, no, man, just write something that feels honest. You know, exactly. Like tell from your heart, because I think that was something that I just realized early on was like listening to soul music was like, yo, all these dudes are just singing love songs, and nobody's sick and tired of them yet. Like, I've never gotten sick and tired of hearing Al Green hear about being alone. It's like I can listen to it, so it's.
It's what
I
you
think
bring
that's
to
exactly what you bring, and also your truth, because if it's coming from your experience, no matter what, it's different because it's
well, and
your
like he said,
yeah,
that
and
allowed
I'll relate
me
to
to
it
kind of
my way, but it's you will relate to it your way,
Oh, and that's the beautiful thing is like everybody's going to interpret things different. Like this is a song about something I've experienced, but chances are a lot of people have felt this way too. Chances are a lot of people have gone through something like this. I mean, I really try and make my songs ubiquitous in the fact of like, it doesn't matter what your culture or your country is, your background, about heartbreak, about loss, about how amazing it is to fall in love or experience something. So it's like, to get back to it, like, yeah, man, it definitely became therapeutic because I saw that when I put honesty on the paper and sang it with honesty, that it was like it really resonated with people. And I think it's just like anything else. The fact that I was encouraged and got positive feedback allowed me to grow and feel comfortable to like, okay, I'm gonna keep going. It's like the worst thing you can do is stifle someone or tell them like, no, this ain't good. And like, unfortunately, their growth is different. Some people go fast and some people go slow. So, I mean, songwriting is like, it's probably become now something I'm more as proud of anything that I do now. So
now working on there's two things I want to ask. One is like a fan thing. I love and then Monophonics album, the new one, Last One Standing. That fucking song. I want to know that. It reminded me of, I can't remember, but it reminded me of those epic songs that has these different changes that takes you, of course, on a journey. But for me, I was so hyped to hear it. Two, I was so proud that how it was pulled off. Like this, because everybody have ADHD now. They don't care. They want to hear the songs right away or whatever. But this was beautiful. To me, it's like in our culture, like we have Benny, which is like
you have to cook it for a long time.
It's like
roast pork.
It's roast pork.
Yeah.
To me, it tasted. It was like beautiful to taste. It's nice and simmer. You put it in
soft,
and I feel like that's how that song how it took you. What was the process, or what was the idea for that song to get it and to work for it? I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, for sure. it happened very natural. We got together to write as Monophonics, and it was myself and Max Ramey and the guitar player we were working with at the time, Ian McDonald, and the drummer Austin. So, like I said, we were listening to something, and I think it was a song by the Brothers of Soul. For people who don't know, the Brothers of Soul are like an unknown group of writers and producers that were in Detroit, but they kind of were overshadowed by the Motown thing. Like they were never on Motown, but these cats made some amazing soul records. I encourage anybody to look up the Brothers of Soul. Yeah, the Brothers of Soul they made amazing records. And so we were listening to that and a few other things. So we kind of came to the conclusion of like, yo, okay, we know we want to write something up tempo, blah, blah, blah. So we get in there, we're putting it together, and we kind of write the song fast. And then we're like, man, this song is flying by. So then I want to say it was myself or Ian that was like, yeah, what if we had like a reprise? And then that all of a sudden was light bulb, and it was like, yo, Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield. Like,
yes, that's what it was.
The song kind of ends. The song kind of ends, and then it slowly like continues, and then it builds up to this big moment, and then you just got like, where it's like, oh, everybody, the jam. So it was definitely like, okay, cool. So we have this song that very much plays to like pop song form, like 3 minutes, verse, chorus, like very straight ahead. But then it's all going to break down, and we're going to like slowly build it up. So we basically, that day we recorded drums, bass, guitar, and piano. And then sitting with it, I was definitely like, yo, okay, we got to get some percussion on this. So I brought in my friend Will Phillips, who's from down in LA. He's a great percussionist. I basically was like, yo, do the Master Henry Gibson is the percussionist on all those Curtis Mayfield records. So I was like, do the Master Henry. Master Henry Gibson's like a very famous percussionist from Chicago. He played with Donny Hathaway, a lot of beautiful people. So I was like, yo, just bring that vibe, and that's the thing. Like, I wear my influences on my sleeve. I ain't hiding anything. Like, I'll tell everybody, Curtis Mayfield, outside of my father, Curtis Mayfield is my number one. Like, he's my biggest influence as a singer, as a songwriter, as a businessman, as a producer. So it was basically just like, make it a very like kind of not serious, but a moody vibe for that first half. Yeah. And then like open it up and allow it to be like, feel very free and very like, okay, we're going to have fun now.
I love it.
And then the words kind of came a little bit later. I just kind of started vibing to the whole, like, what if someone was in a place where almost like it's kind of funny. It's like almost post-apocalyptic. It's like, what if somebody was alone, but they knew other people were out there. They just didn't know where they were. You don't have cars. You don't have a way to just connect with other humans. So in terms of just like the idea of knowing that someone else is out there, or there's some hope, is what drives you every day, is what keeps you, waking up and going out and fighting to stay alive, to stay afloat. And that was just kind of the idea of like, I will be the last one standing. And just that idea of like a letter, to whom it may concern. These are words from the past. And what is the line? Hold on. Something. If you're reading this, it means that I'm still alive. So yeah, if you're reading this, it means that, yes, I'm still alive, inhaling all the life that you gave me to survive. So it's like that. It's that feeling of like, just knowing that there's hope out there is like enough to like, it breathes life into me and love. So yeah, man, nice. I'm extremely proud of that song, because I really like, I've told people like I spent a lot of time crafting that the production and making sure every little piece and moment, because like you said, it's a 6.5-minute song. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Like people have a hard time watching a 2-minute movie trailer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was very much like, man, I need to keep people interested. Like I need to keep this thing moving. Like, so yeah, I mean,
You did that, man.
Yeah.
You guys.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
And
you guys definitely did that with that record, man.
it's funny because we talked about like, well, we should just release like the 3-minute version, and I was like, no,
Nah,
man, if
fuck
you're
that.
gonna digest, if you're gonna
Yeah.
if you're gonna hear this song for the first time, you got to hear it as it is. Like you're not gonna just give someone a couple courses.
Nah.
You want to serve them the whole 7-course meal so they
Yeah.
can get every little like appetizer, every little vibe, because they
Yeah.
all work with each other. So I was really happy that Terry was into that. And he was like, yeah, man, let's release the full version. Like, fuck doing a radio edit. Like, let's just push it. So
Now working on I know that you're working on the second album, and you don't have to reveal anything. But one question I do have now is that, you know, how do you work knowing and not let any pressure or any outside get to you to make a good second album, you know, and not worry about what anyone's gonna think or even like the perception of the first one? How do you remain calm and also, like how you said, keep it about just make it fun and do this and know when to not overdo it, you know? Which I know is probably easier said than done, you know what I'm saying?
One thing I've learned over the past handful of years as I've gotten, you know, as I've grown and done this more and more is like, I trust my gut, you know, because that's a big thing is like at first, that's all you're going off of. It's like you're going off your gut and something that says like, yeah, do this, try this. That sounds good. Don't do that. This isn't working. So it's like, it's really just a little voice. It's like your gut. And as I've followed my gut and seen the success, I've learned that it's like, oh, I can trust my gut. How long will that voice remain to be right? I don't know. I mean, I think about that all the time because yeah, like I just love music. And like, if you really, really love something, like I've always said, like fear, like we know fear will paralyze you. And never once have I played to that and allowed myself to be convinced that like, I can't do something. I can't achieve these dreams. I can't achieve these goals. You know, like the thing about music is like a lot of us, we start out young and we have these dreams and you share these dreams with your friends and like you got crews and like, yeah, we're going to do this together. Trust me, the herd will thin out.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
everybody is going to have your ambition or your drive or you're willing to sacrifice, you know, personal comforts and things that we all kind of want. And I really appreciate, as tough as it's been at times, I appreciate the fact that I've really stayed, I've kept my eye on the prize.
Nice.
So you want to go back to the beginning of that question since it's in a record, or you?
No, it's fine.
Okay. The second question is, what does the American dream mean to you?
The American dream means, wow. I mean, that's a tough question given, you know, no, it's hard because obviously, you know, I'm speaking from a place of like, I'm a white privileged man in a country where it's easier for me, you know, It's like, I'm going to be given different opportunities. So it's like, unfortunately, I think that just means something different for everybody. I think in the statement, it means, you know, chasing your dream and being able to make a living and do what you want and have a family and travel and experience life with the people you love and while making an honest living. I think that's obviously become a lot harder watching like the middle class disappear and watching the fact that, you know, there has been systemic racism in so many different parts of this country, the way it operates. And the fact that now it's become a conversation that is like truly come to the front lines of like people are finally understanding what you mean when you talk about systemic racism. So like, I don't want to get political or anything, but it's like, that's a really beautiful question, but I think it's really hard to say right now because ultimately it means like you know, you're put in a lane and you want to feel like you can get in this lane and you can do your thing and you can feel free to change your mind, and maybe you don't want to do this now, you want to, but you should be able to like roam free and figure out what you want to do, what really makes you happy, what drives you.
Yep.
And I guess, I mean, that's what it means to me, is just the
Yeah.
freedom to chase what you want, whether that be having a wife and kids, or having a career in arts or technology, or service goods, working. Maybe you want to be like work at a hotel because you love to,
Yeah.
you want to live in
Whatever
another
that dream
country
is
and you
to
want
you.
to, yeah, whatever it is. It's like
Mhm.
it's just the fact that you have the freedoms to navigate to achieve that dream.
Nice. And the last question is, if the average lifespan was 40 years old, how would you live your life differently?
Damn, I'm about to be 39 next week, so don't talk about it. Say it one more time. 40 years old and what?
Yeah, if your average lifespan was 40 years old, how would you live your life differently?
Man, that's a great question. One of the better ones I've ever gotten. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Like I've said, I'm not one to sit here and talk about, things I regret. I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, we all have regrets. But I would just say I probably, I would do a better job balancing my art, my art with my personal life. Like I
Nice.
said,
Okay.
unfortunately, I've been so driven at times and so deep in the tunnel vision that it's hurt my personal life, in the sense of, like, I do have friends and I have people that I've known a long time, and I've been lucky to meet some amazing women and spend time with them and be in some really nice relationships. But, like, I don't have a wife, I don't have a family. Obviously, these are things you think of when you're young.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, my drive and my ambition, made me put these things on the back burner with the mindset of, like, you can't do both and be great at them both. Like, you can't, and I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying this is my own mindset. You can't really do this and this and this and expect this, like, your home life and your family life, to, like, really get the attention and the needs that your wife needs or your husband needs or your kid, so it's like, I think I always convinced myself that it's like, oh well, you'll get to that. Oh well, you'll get to that. You know what I mean? Like, keep pushing towards your dream, keep chasing the dream. There'll be time for that. And as time has passed, you start to, like, that light gets, dimmer and dimmer. That's probably what I would say I would do different, is, like, just learn at a younger age how to balance, your personal needs with your professional needs.
You are now checking out
The Win Podcast,
where everyday people
are the celebrities.
So let's get to know them.